And I'll live stream.
Okay, so we're now live streaming, Clerk Bulmer.
Yeah, we're started now. Thank you. Yes.
Okay, then we'll call the meeting to order. I'll ask for the calling of the roll.
Thank you. Mayor Eady,
Present.
Reeve Eman,
Present.
Councillor Koulis, Councillor Evans, Councillor Hines,
Present.
Councillor Jemison,
Present.
Councillor Sydney.
Present.
We do have a quorum.
Thank you. A declaration of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof. Okay, hearing none. Okay. First motion being that the minutes of the regular council meeting held electronically on April the 13th, 2021 be adopted as printed. And the mover, please. Councillor Hines, second by Councillor Koulis. Any comments on or questions on the minutes? Okay. Hearing none, all in favor? Carried. That the minutes of the Committee of Adjustment meeting held April the 6th, 2021 be received. Mover, please. Councillor Hines, seconded by Reeve Eman. Okay. I chaired that meeting and there was two minor variances applied for. On one at 248 Monroe and the other one at 270 McLean. An explanation was given by Planner Withers, and both were recommended, and both carried the Committee of Adjustment committee. And that's it for that report, unless there's any questions. Okay, hearing none, all in favor? Carried. The Planner Withers report dated April 22nd concerning the comprehensive zoning bylaw 46-2010 5-year review be received. Mover, please. Councillor Hines, second by.
Oh, I'll do it.
Councillor Jemison. I guess Planner Withers, do you want to start giving reports on all these motions now?
Sure, I can do that.
Okay, thank you.
Just the zoning bylaw review report, Mayor Eady?
This is bylaw 46-2010, comprehensive zoning bylaw, yes.
Okay.
And there's after that, there is the bylaw being brought up, etc. So it's either now or you do it later, one of the two. Whatever suits you.
I can do it now.
Okay.
Okay, so so this is our statutory review of the zoning bylaw. You have to review your zoning bylaw within 3 years of your official plan review. So we did our official plan review in 2018. So this is the follow-up to that. The purpose of the review is mainly for conformity with the official plan and with any laws, statutes that may have been amended since the previous review. So it's a conformity exercise. It's not intended to amend properties, amend the zoning of individual properties. It's just kind of a high level exercise. So we did this at the staff level, went through the bylaw, identified potential wording issues, conformity issues, kind of readability, usability, just in my experience with the bylaw so far. I can summarize the recommended changes. If you go to page 4 of the report, under the planning comments, the recommended changes are reviewed there. And I think maybe instead of going through each of them, if there are any questions about any proposed revision in particular, I can certainly answer them. And then attached to the report is the amending bylaw, which includes both a schedule amendment. So Schedule A to bylaw 2321 is the amended schedule. Staff are recommending that that the property at the corner of Smallfield Lane and Lisker Avenue. That property is owned by McGrimmons. And I've contacted Mr. McGrimmon. He's agreeable to the change. The essence of it is that it was zoned R1 through the 2010 bylaw for some reason, likely at the request of the adjacent landowner. That subsequently has sold their property to the town, and it's been rezoned to a community facility for the new garage. So this remnant piece here that's shown as being hatched in Schedule A to the amending bylaw. It's still R1 and it's used for industrial purposes. So we're recommending that be rezoned to M2, which is the zoning of the surrounding properties. And then Schedule B to Bylaw 2321 is a full text of our zoning bylaw with additions and deletions shown using the text conventions noted at the top of Schedule B. So if there are any specific questions, I don't think I'll bore council with a line-by-line review of each change. But if there are any specific questions, I'll certainly be happy to answer them. Thank you.
Okay, any questions, council? Revimo.
Just a general question. Should there be in the next little while some changes that become necessary? For instance, I'm thinking of there was some discussion with the leg group of forming a Highway 417 readiness planning / building committee, if that's just my wording. And should there be some consolidation or unification of zoning forms, processes? Is it readily changeable? Should we have changes down the road?
Thank you, through you, Mary. Yeah, so the zoning bylaw can be amended at any point. It's very common for municipalities to amend their zoning, even on an annual basis, as just a technical amendment. If council, depending on what the outcome of that review is, if it's a significant departure from the current bylaw format, we might have to do a bit more of an in-depth study of the alternatives to that. But yeah, it would be done through just any similar kind of amendment. You just do an amending bylaw and away we go. If council wants to repeal the entirety of the zoning bylaw and replace it with an entirely new format, that could get a little interesting, but certainly something that we can look at. The issue with repealing the entire bylaw, and the nice thing about just doing a review and amendment, is that you don't expose the entire bylaw to appeal, and there's some limitations on the ability to do that now. It's not as easy to appeal an entire bylaw as it used to be, but it still exposes more of the bylaw to appeal, whereas amendments, you can just kind of pick and choose and amend what you like. So I don't know if that answers the question.
It does nicely. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Councillor Hines.
Yes, Your Worship. I just have a comment. I just want to really say thanks a lot to Eric. It's very well laid out. And if you've taken the time to go through the bylaw, you'll see where he has certainly highlighted in red what has been deleted and stricken out, and what has been added is there in red and underlined. And the committee, the Planning Advisory Committee, did spend a lot of time looking at this, not only at the planning meeting, but we had an opportunity to do that at the open house. So I really appreciate all the work that Eric did on that, and also certainly the engagement of the whole planning committee.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anything else? I just like to echo them comments on our others. Okay. Nothing else then. All in favor? It's carried. Okay. Now we'll get into the bylaw. The bylaw 23/2021 being the bylaw to amend bylaw 46/2010, being the bylaw to regulate the use of lands and the character, location, use of buildings and structures within the town of Renfrew pursuant to section 34 of the Planning Act with respect to this town's statutory review of the zoning bylaw be read the first time and deemed to have been read a second time. Mover, please. Councillor Hines, seconded by Revimo. Any further questions or comments on it? Okay, hearing none. All in favor? Carried. The bylaw 23-2021, being a bylaw to amend bylaw number 46/2010, being a bylaw to regulate use of the character, location, use of buildings and structure within the town of Renfrew pursuant to section 34 of the Planning Act with respect to the town's statutory review of the zoning bylaw be read a third time and be passed. Mover, please. Revimo, second by Councillor Sidney. Again, any questions or comments? Okay, hearing none. All in favor? Carried. Okay. The planner weather's report dated April the 22nd, 2021 concerning a temporary use bylaw be received. Over, please. Councillor Sidney, second by Councillor Jamison. Turn over to planner weathers again for a short report.
Thank you, Mayor Eady. This is a refresh of the bylaw that council passed last year for expanded patios in light of the ongoing public health issues right now. So obviously right now, no form of seated dining is permitted, but hopefully when the province reopens restaurants, it's possible that they'll be relying again on patios this year for a large part of their business. So last year we had Rocky Mountain House, had their big patio. Stepping Back had one outside. We were approached by the Wing, the Legion, by Finnegan's. A number of restaurants indicated a desire to expand their patios within their parking areas, and some moved ahead, some didn't. Obviously, Rocky Mountain was out there most of the year. So this is just intended to provide that additional flexibility. The province has extended again the ability to do this, and so this is just providing that ability through the zoning. The zoning bylaw would not typically permit that. It consumes parking spaces, but I think just given the current situation, that a lot of municipalities are finding it appropriate to provide this flexibility at this time. So just providing this bylaw for council's consideration. Thank you.
Any questions or comments? Councillor Hines.
Just a comment of clarification, maybe. This bylaw is extended for another year, and the bylaw is only to expand patios on their own private property. It doesn't relate to the encroachments that happen onto the sidewalk or the street. So that regular encroachment application is still necessary for businesses to get. So this one is just an extension from the COVID issue.
Any further questions? Okay, hearing none, all in favor? Carried. Okay. The bylaw 26-2021 in a temporary use bylaw to regulate the use of restaurant and bar patios during the period of the COVID-19 emergency within the town of Renfrew, pursuant to section 39 of the Planning Act and Ontario Regulation 345/20, read the first time and deemed to have been read the second time. Over, please. Councillor Hines, second by Councillor Sidney. Again, any questions or comments on the bylaw? Hearing none, all in favor? Carried. The bylaw 27-2021 being the bylaw to amend bylaw 46/2010, being a bylaw to regulate the use of lands and character location. Give me a second here. Sorry about that. Picked up the wrong paper. The bylaw 26-2021 being a temporary use bylaw to regulate the use of restaurant or bar patio during the period of COVID-19 emergency within town of Renfrew pursuant to section 239 of the Planning Act, Ontario Regulation 345/20 be read a third time and be passed. Need a mover, please. Councillor Hines, second by Councillor Jamison. Again, any questions or comments? Okay, hearing none. All in favor? Carried. Okay. The planner village report dated April 22nd, 2021 concerning a zoning bylaw amendment for 314 Raglan Street South be received. Need a mover, please. Councillor Hines, second by Councillor Sidney. And Planner Withers, do you want to do a quick report on this?
Yes, thank you again, Mary. So this is an application for a zoning bylaw amendment. It was brought to Planning Committee last year, and in the meantime, we've been working with the applicant on options for parking and access. So this is obviously Coco Jerry's, and Coco Jerry's has been operating for a long time in town. They have quite a bit of space at the rear of the restaurant that's underutilized, not currently being used. They're kind of their banquet facilities, or they're kind of their larger party rooms, if you will. And they're looking to kind of right size the size of their restaurant to align with their business needs, and to use the portion of the back of the restaurant that they no longer require for the restaurant to convert that into a 2-bedroom apartment. And my understanding is that Mr. Karavides is going to be living in in that unit. So since it went to committee, the issue of access and parking was kind of looked at in a bit more detail. Appendix B to the report, be on page 171 of the agenda if you have it electronically. Appendix B shows a site plan that we requested from the applicant, and the initial request from the applicant was to access the property through Raglan Street South, and through the downtown. That access was closed off as part of the corridor control initiatives as part of the design of this of the downtown reconstruction. So that access is no longer available to the property. The only vehicular access to the rear of the property at this point is through Argyle Street South, and of course, the town owns that parking lot. The parking lot is utilized by Coco Jerry's patrons, but it is owned by the town. And at this point, that is the only vehicular access to the rear of the property where the proposed parking spaces for the residential units exist. So the only real alternative that we've identified to this point that is workable from an access perspective is to provide the owner, provide Coco Jerry's with an easement over the town parking lot in favor of the Coco Jerry's property, so that they can access their property, access those parking spaces. So that's the recommendation that's put before council at this time. So it's the zoning bylaw amendment to permit the additional residential unit on the main floor, where they're converting it from restaurant to the apartment unit. And then in addition to that, to recommend that council support the conveyance of an easement to Coco Jerry's to provide them with access as they no longer have it through their previous vehicular access on Raglan Street South. So, I mean, council is going to want to be aware in considering this recommendation that this does, create an access, obviously an access easement over town property where it doesn't currently exist. So this potentially does limit the ability to redevelop that property. I think from a parking needs perspective, there is some good utilization of that parking lot. I wouldn't consider it at this point to be surplus lands from a parking perspective. It may be at some point, an option to redevelop that property. I'm not sure when that might be, but just so council is aware of the implications of granting an easement over the property. Unfortunately, at this point, there doesn't appear to be another viable option for vehicular access to the property outside of this easement. Again, the previous access doesn't exist at this point, and to be honest, it was quite a narrow access. If you just to walk by it and imagine even a larger truck, it might fit, but it would be very tight. So it probably wasn't an ideal vehicular access to begin with. So I think those are my comments. If council has any specific questions, just in terms of the how to potentially address the easement and the ability to reconfigure that in the future, I think maybe we can explore some options with town legal staff or the town solicitor of including some wording in the easement that allows the town the ability to reconfigure that access easement. Obviously, it's running right through the middle of the parking lot right now, which may not be ideal in a redevelopment scenario. So if there's some ability to tie in some language into the easement that allows for the realignment of that easement, maybe to the far to one side of the property, or to somehow integrate it with the redevelopment proposal for the site, I think that's an option as well. So a bit long-winded there. I apologize.
Okay, any questions or comments? Repayment.
So is it my understanding, through you, your worship, to Planner Withers, so my understanding the easement is tied exclusively to this zoning? So if in the event there's a rezoning, there's another property owner and they want to put a hobby shop in those two rooms, that easement doesn't attach itself to a rezoning. It's tied specifically to this zoning.
Through you, Mary. So this easement would exist in perpetuity. So it doesn't have, it's not tied specifically to the zoning. I think the principle of it is that the owner at 314 Raglan Street South has no current vehicular access, and so this is to provide them with that access regardless of who they have tenanted in there. I think if the owner ever came forward, the current or future owner with a redevelopment proposal that doesn't require that easement, then I think, again, potentially some language written into that easement to provide the town with an ability to reconfigure, or that the owner agrees to release the easement at that time, I think might be possible. I just some potential options.
Director Aslan.
Yes, I'll just add to Planner Withers' comments. The access to the Coco Jerry's property for the existing kind of residential upstairs use, as well as commercial, like the garbage removal for the bins, has been using that area of the right of way for many years. We all know that the side lane has been sort of an outdoor dining area since I came here in 2005. So it's this easement is more or less formalizing kind of what's happened over the course of the last of the most recent history, but it does provide some formal solution to access to that property. So So it is, the rezoning is contingent upon getting some formal access properly to that property, as Planner Withers has indicated. So.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Councillor Cooless.
Through you, Your Worship, my only concern with this would be going into the future. The current owner of that establishment, assuming he sells someday, and we all do at some point, what happens with this easement, and what sort of business is in there, and how does it curtail the town of Renfrew's ability to use that property for some other purpose other than maybe parking, unless we do get, as Planner Withers had indicated, a study done so that we could possibly grant them an easement along one side of it only, and to this owner only.
Okay, Planner Withers or Director Aslan.
Yeah, I think maybe I can just start, Mike.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think that's an option we can explore. I think at this point, given that the traveled portion of the realistically where they're going to be driving is through the middle, you know, I suppose it's possible to align it against the side of the parking lot, but you know, putting it in a location where they're not currently actually physically driving, I don't think is, you know, may not be advisable. But you know, I think maybe some language in that easement, again, subject to our consulting with the town's legal services, that you know, maybe having some language in there, providing some flexibility in the future if the owner does sell, or future owner decides to redevelop, or the town wants to redevelop.
Director Aslan.
Yeah, through the chair, the driving lane down the middle essentially provides for kind of usability of parking spaces. If the laneway was provided along the edge, it makes sort of two rows of parking very, very difficult to configure in the parking lot. So that's why it was kind of up the middle, like Planner Withers had indicated. I'm not familiar with language that allows the municipality or property owner to reconfigure the easement in the future. Again, we may have to consult with the town's legal to see if that wording is something that's doable. But certainly the configuration sort of recognizes sort of the parking configuration that allows the laneway with you know, access to both sides of that laneway for parking, sort of similar to maximize the amount of parking available on the parking lot.
Okay, anything further? Councillor Hines.
Yeah, I do think for now, going down the center for the easement is the proper place to have it, because it, as Director Aslan said, it does take away from the parking on the side. If you're going to put the easement down, then you're squishing the parking over, and it's already a little tight there. As Councillor Cooless said, I would be interested in hearing if there is some kind of language that could put in there if we plan to reconfigure it. I myself don't know of any plans for that parking lot at the moment. I think it serves the purpose very well there. And I think if there was some wording that could be put in there that says if the town does wish to reconfigure it, then the easement will be part of that reconfiguration.
Anything else? Revimo.
Yes, thank you to Planner Withers through the chair. Is there any obligation on us to maintain the lot in terms of painting to make sure the lane is clearly distinguished, or are we just going to continue with the regular maintenance?
Through you, Mary, my sense would be that it would just be status quo in terms of maintenance.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? Okay, carried. Okay. The bylaw 27-2021, being a bylaw to amend bylaw number 46-2010, being a bylaw to regulate the use of lands on the character location of building structure within the town of Renfrew pursuant to section 34 of the Planning Act with respect to the property known municipally as 314 Ryden Street South, Town of Renfrew, County of Renfrew, roll number 4748 000 030-01000, read a first time and deemed to have been read a second time. Mover, please. Councillor Hines, second by Councillor Jemison. Again, any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor? Carried. The bylaw 27-21, 2021, being a bylaw to amend bylaw number 46-2010, being a bylaw to regulate the use of lands on the character, location, use of buildings and structures within the town of Renfrew pursuant to section 34 of the Planning Act with respect to the property known municipally 314 Ryden Street South, Town of Renfrew, County of Renfrew, having roll number 4748 000-030-01000, read a third time and be passed. Mover, please. Councillor Hines, second by Reid Bemo. Any questions or comments? All in favor? Carried. Okay. The council approved the creation of an access easement across the town parking lot located at 313 Argyle Street South, having roll number 4748-000-030-27 or 02700 in favor of her property located at 314 Raglan Street, having roll number 4748 000-030-01000. Mover, please. Councillor Jamison, second by Councillor Sidney. Again, any questions? Okay. Hearing none. All in favor? Carried. Okay. The planner weather's report dated April 22nd, 2021, concerning an extension of draft approval for the 100 Gate subdivision phase 4 be received. Over, please. Councillor Jamison, second by Councillor Hines. Okay, I'll turn it over to Planner Withers for another report.
Okay, there we go. I lost my screen for a moment. Okay, so this is just again coming back, Hunter Gate. It lapses annually. So as the developer continues to work on getting the next phases of the subdivision approved, final approved, they have to get this extended every year, the draft approval, or else it'll lapse and they'll have to go through the whole process again. So at the staff level, we have no concerns about extending this again for another year. It's been the application has been sent to the county. County requires endorsement of town council to move forward with the extension. So again, subject to any questions from council, we're recommending that it be extended. Thank you.
Any questions, council? Okay. Hearing none. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Okay. Okay, the Renfrew Town Council support the extension of draft approval by the County of Renfrew for the property identified as parts of Lot 10 and 11, Concession 3, Town of Renfrew, for the draft plan of subdivision known is Hunter Gate subdivision, phase 4, having county file number 47T-92002 and town file number D12000. Need a mover, please. Councillor Hines, second by Reeve Emo. Again, any questions or comments on this? Okay, hearing none. All in favor? Carried. Okay. Next one, the minutes of the Finance Committee meetings held February the 17th, March 22nd, Part 1, March 26th, Part 2, and April 21st, 2021 be received. Mover, please. Councillor Kula, seconded by Councillor Hines. Again, these minutes, most of everything that's on these minutes will be coming up just down the road a wee bit. Maybe there's one item on here is the annual repayment limit. If I could ask Treasurer Raleigh to do an explanation on that.
Thank you, Mayor Eady. This is an attachment to the set of minutes from the 21st of April, just last week. It's an annual document that we receive from the Ontario Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing. And whenever the municipality has to borrow money, we always have to provide, whether it's Infrastructure Ontario or any of the chartered banks, confirmation that we are in accord or within the limits of our borrowing capacity. The annual repayment limit, what it does is calculate based on our total revenues, adjusted for any one-time revenues and provincial grants and so on. It calculates how much money we would have available on an annual basis to serve our debt payments, principal and interest. And basically, it's a 25% calculation of your total revenue. This is in accordance with the Municipal Act. And what the first page of the annual repayment limit shows is that the town of Renfrew could incur additional borrowing that would have annual repayments of $3.1 million, which is fairly substantial. They give a couple of examples. If we were borrowing money at 5%, for example, over 20 years, that means the municipality could borrow an additional almost $39 million and still be not offside with the borrowing rules. Council may recall that just the previous council meeting, there was a guarantee that had to be provided to support the Renfrew Power Generation application for funding, and that included the fact that we were stating that any guarantees were kept us within our annual repayment limit, and that was correct at the time and continues to be correct. This is a good news document. We do have we have substantial borrowing going forward over the next 10 years for a variety of projects, and they can all be accommodated within the borrowing capacity that's outlined here. So it is helpful. And again, the calculations are done by the ministry. So this was based on our 2019 financial information. By the time every municipality files their returns, and then the ministry has to do their analysis. So it's basically 18 months in arrears or 16 months in arrears at this point in time, but it does provide us with our limit for the 2021 fiscal year.
Okay, any questions or comments on that particular document or anything else in the minutes? Okay, hearing none. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Okay. The Treasurer Riley's report dated April 22nd, 2021 concerning grants to organizations 2021 be received. Over, please. Councillor Hines, second by Reeve Emo. Again, this is going to be coming up again here in just a second in the next motion. Any questions or comments on this? Okay, hearing none. All in favor? Carried. Okay, the Renfrew Town Council approved the following grants for 2021. Heritage Renfrew, $1,500. Hospice Renfrew, $500. Renfrew and Area Senior Home Support, $1,500. RCF Wing, $1,000. Royal Canadian Legion Branch, 148, $1,000. Santa Claus Parade, $1,000. For a total of $6,500. Can I have a mover for that, please? Councillor Sidney, second by Councillor Coolidge. Now, is there any questions or comments on this? Okay. Treasurer O'Reilly.
If I may just, Your Worship, highlight in the financial comment, there's reference to a further commitment that's in addition to this $6,500 is the commitment that was made to the Golden Age Activity Center in the amount of $10,675. And just to let council know, this is now the fifth year of the 5-year agreement for that grant to that organization, which was to assist in getting an SALC grant through the province of Ontario.
Okay. Any further questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor? Carried. Okay, the Treasurer O'Reilly report dated April 23rd, 2021 concerning the 2021 budget be received. Mover, please. Councillor Hines, second by Councillor Sidney. I'll turn it over to Treasurer. Report.
Thank you, Mayor Eadie. The report itself summarizes there are a series of resolutions or motions that will have to be approved by council shortly. The process was somewhat protracted this year. We did begin early in the fall, carried it through to, in November, council approved the capital equipment and the capital rolling stock budgets. And then we got into the other capital budgets for facilities and roads infrastructure, as well as the operating budgets at that time. And then in January, early February, we continued to work on the water wastewater rate study and the financial plan, the water financial plan that was in progress at that point in time. And council recall that the water and wastewater rate study was presented twice to the committee of the whole in mid to the late February. And then on March 9th, the water and wastewater rates were approved for 2020 and 2021. Since then, the consolidated budget has been reviewed by the department head and revised. And then on March the 22nd and March the 26th, the Finance Committee met on 2 occasions, 2 afternoons, to review the capital facilities budget, the capital roads infrastructure budget, and the consolidated operating budget, basically doing a line-by-line review of those items, which culminated in a few more revisions to the draft budget. And on April the 7th, then the Committee of the Whole had an opportunity in an evening meeting at Mattaway to review the budget package in its entirety. And if I can just highlight that the budget as required under the Municipal Act will have a break-even number. You cannot budget for a surplus. You certainly cannot budget for a deficit. It's got to be break-even. The levy being proposed for 2021 is just over $9.3 million, which represents a 2.25% over the levy for the previous year, when I consider growth as well. But the interesting thing is that the total revenue for the municipality is just short of $15 million. So taxation accounts for 63% of the total, and the balance of 37% comes from other sources, which includes everything from our Ontario Municipal Partnership funding to tipping fees, ice rental fees, any of the user fees that we have accounts for the other $5.4 million. So it's getting to be a substantial operating budget. And in addition to that, we have a capital budget for 2021 that amounts to just over $30 million. So in total, the municipality is looking at about a $45 million budget for 2021. And we've accommodated that within a 2.25% levy increase, which is basically an economic adjustment of 2% plus an extra 0.25% for the asset management plan reserve that we've been building up over the last few years, and which is now being utilized to fund a lot of the capital projects we have going forward. So having said that, unless there's specific questions, or if council prefer, I do have my hour-and-a-half presentation available here if you'd like me to pop it up and walk you through it for the benefit of everyone else. It is pretty dry stuff, and I think you've all had that already, but I could certainly do that if council wishes. Otherwise, I would be available for any questions.
Any questions on the budget? Councillor Sidney.
It's not a question, it's more of a comment. Just, being on council for the last 6 years and learning how budgets work and seeing how big they are and the amount of time that goes into it, I just want to thank the Carrie and the Treasury Department for putting it together, and then all the directors and staff who had to put their stuff in it, because this is not just a one-page document of budgeting to go get groceries. This is pretty pretty extensive and it takes a lot of work. And I just wanted to recognize that we appreciate that.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay, I would like to echo the same type of sentiment as Councillor Sidney. A thank you to Treasurer O'Reilly and all the department heads, and I have to say all the committee chairs as well, because this is a very comprehensive document to put together, and there's many hours comes from a whole pile of different people within the town of Renfrew to make this all happen. So again, thank you very much. Okay, all in favor? Carried. Okay, that the 2021 capital facilities budget as summarized in Schedule C and presented to Committee of the Whole meeting held April 7, 2021 be approved. Mover, please. Councillor Hines, second by Reid Vimo. Any questions on this motion? Hearing none. All in favor? Carried. That the 2021 capital roads infrastructure budget as amended and summarized in Schedule D and presented to council at the Committee of the Whole meeting held April 7, 2021 be approved. Over, please. Councillor Hines, second by Reid Vimo again. Okay, any further questions on this motion? Okay, hearing none. All in favor? Carried. Okay, that the 2021 reserves and deferred revenue forecast as amended and summarized as Schedule E and presented to council at the Committee of the Whole meeting held April 7, 2021 be approved, including the following transfers to reserves. A, 123,000 asset management plan, AMP number 1. B, 86,300 asset management plan 2, AMP number 2. 159,200 equipment. D, 212,300 facilities. E, 5,200 ice resurfacer replacement. F, 165,600 infrastructure levy. G, 50,000 Mattaway components. H, 70,000 miscellaneous. I, 20,800 parking lots. J, 530,600 shave and pave. K, 318,300 road infrastructure. I, 371,400 rolling stock. M, 8,000 election, and 50,000 landfill closure. O, 75,000 town hall. And the following transfer from reserves. P, $35,660 OPP to offset final reconciliation of 2019 policing costs. Over, please. Councillor Hines, second by Reid Vimo. Again, any questions on any of this? Okay, hearing nothing. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. That the 2021 operating budget summarized in Schedules F, G, and H are presented to council at the Committee of the Whole meeting held April 7, 2021 be approved. Over, please. Reid Vimo, second by Councillor Hines. Any questions or comments? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. That the 2021 lot development fund budget as presented in Schedule 1 to Treasurer O'Reilly's report dated April 23rd, 2021 be adopted. Over, please. Reid Vimo, second by Councillor Hines. Any questions or comments on this? Okay, hearing none. All in favor? Carried. Okay, the Clerk Mulmer's report dated April 23rd, 2021 concerning electronic documents and records management system be received. Mover, please. Councillor Sidney, second by Councillor Jamison. I'll turn over to Clerk Bulmer maybe for a short report.
Thank you, Mayor Edie, members of council. The report before you this evening was a report that was actually contemplated pre-COVID. We were moving close to bringing electronic file management to the forefront of conversation, and it obviously has taken a back seat because of other priorities. But once again, we've had an opportunity at the senior management team level to discuss. We've had some online presentations by the company that is we're looking to engage, and I think it's a good opportunity now to move ahead. Part of that reason being is that we have modernization money that fits really nicely into what we're trying to do, and this is really is a move to modernize our system here. And when we talk about file management, an incredible number of files are kept by the municipality, both temporary and permanent records. Many of those files we've tried to digitize and to have ready, like bylaws and minutes. We've actually completed about 120 to 130 years of digitization that would be ready to plunk into this management system. So kind of in a nutshell, what we're contemplating is using a file management, I guess, system and how we do our filing. It's a structure called the Ontario Municipal Records Management System, short acronym is TOMRIMS. It's used extensively across the province in municipalities, and what it does is it sets up a really consistent approach to filing for a municipality. In turn, this system is then embedded into a software, so everything becomes electronic. It's all scan and file. It allows municipality to also embed its retention schedule, so that everything that we have is automatically monitored for retention. We're notified when documents can be destroyed, and also the permanent records are kept safe as well. The Municipal Act does require municipalities to preserve records of the municipality in a secure and accessible manner. This does both those. It kind of moves us into, I guess, we're used to say the 20th century, but 21st century. And it's certainly going to be a system that's going to be with the town for many years. Several Eastern Ontario municipalities have already implemented. Our closest neighbor that utilizes it is the town of Arnprior, and has done so quite successfully. And it kind of takes the town now, because of our departmentalization, it will bring us into one corporate filing system, which I think is very important. And it also offers more streamlined file searches when it comes to freedom of information requests, when it comes to putting things together to support legal suits, etc. And it's certainly, when everyone's filing the same way and filing in the same system, it certainly makes a lot of sense. It is password protected, so those documents that have sensitivity are certainly are protected to be viewed by only those who have access. There is extensive training that will be done, and again, it's a move that's it's probably years overdue, and we're kind of excited to move forward with it. Again, the financing recommended to come from the modernization fund. That's the lump sum of money we received back. I think it was early in 2019, and we had earmarked some money for this, and I think it's a great use, and it shows that the town is looking at efficiencies and modernization. So I can answer any specific questions if council wishes. And
okay. Any questions, council? Repayment.
Thank you. Through to Clerk Bulmer. Is this also the system that allows sharing of the agenda and information with the agenda to the website and posting things quicker. Is that the same, or am I mixing it up?
Kind of yes and no for you, Marity. I would call this a phase one of our electronic challenge, if you will. This software does integrate with an agenda management tool that we are looking at, that we're also in the phase of investigation. It integrates nicely with it, and it's something that I'll probably be moving as a phase two to council sometime in the very near future in 2021 for sure. And that software, yes, it's essentially an agenda meeting management software that brings consistency to all agendas, all minutes. You have integration with website. You have what we can do is utilize our website on what's called the back end, the back door for council access and sharing. And basically it's digitizing more of what we do and relying less on paper, and making the use of the digital platforms easier for the end user, whether it's council or the general public.
Oops, sorry. Too many different presentations over the last couple of weeks.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor? Carried, thank you. The Renfrew Town Council approved the purchase of the Ontario Municipal Records Management System (TOM RMS) compliance services at a cost of $4,070.40, inclusive of non-refundable HST. Mover, please. Councillor Cool is second by Reeve Emo. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor? Carried. The Renfrew Town Council waived the requirements of the purchasing and tendering policy in order to sole source and approve the purchase of the file hold electronic document and records management system at a cost of $30,768.15, inclusive of non-refundable HST. Mover, please. Councillor Jamison, second by Councillor Sidney. Any questions or comments on this? Okay, hearing none, all in favor? Carried. Okay, the minutes of the Waste Management Committee meeting held April 6, 2021 be received. Mover, please. Reeve Emo, second by Councillor Sidney. Turn over to Reeve Emo for the report.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to council and our public. There was a Waste Management Committee meeting held on April the 6th. It was an electronic meeting, of course. I'll run you down to item number 5. We had a delegation from Mr. McCrimmon, who is a multi-residential unit owner. Our committee has committed to meeting with as many landlords who have larger properties or properties that are fairly well developed and in need of some conversation about waste management, how they handle it on their property and in their units, and then also about introduction of a recycling program to multi-residential units. So we'll be going out in the next little while speaking to landlords to get a sense of what we can do in the future and what they're capable of doing and willing to do, recognizing that we want to keep more waste out of our landfills. So you see the direction on the next page where staff would continue to work with Mr. McGrimmon, and also to take a look at what available options for overhead bin collection for large multi-residential units are. Number 8, the landfill report. Final totals for March were higher than stated due to material received on March 31st. So tonnage is up from last year. As you recall, we had the COVID shutdown in March of last year, and that really impacted the tonnage brought in as well as our revenue. The deadline for the household hazardous waste summer student had to be extended until April 8th. I can indicate that Mr. Armstrong, Tyler Armstrong, and myself interviewed a candidate, and he'll be extending an offer of employment to that person with the understanding the position will be filled prior to the opening weekend of May the 1st. And I'll speak more to that at our next council meeting. Recycling contract, we're going to be meeting with staff. We're meeting with Mterra on April the 6th to discuss the revenue sharing methodology, and we'll hear about that at a later date. We wanted to, and I think through council, speak to the public. We heard through social media that some people were upset about some of the recycling collection, and there were some issues. We didn't hear about it until it came through social media, and the staff did their best to track the complaints and deal with it. So we'd much prefer if people would contact us directly, and then we can resolve the issue first. And then secondly, we can keep track of it for contract compliance in the future. And do we make changes to the contract as we go out again? So, we'd really like to hear about it, because we want to make sure that service is what we're paying for first. And then secondly, the service is acceptable. We feel pretty comfortable that the contractor, for the most part, does a good job. And on occasion, there are things that get slipped up, and we speak with the contractor, and they make changes in their operation to address the issues. So we're comfortable that we have a good relationship, and it's a sound relationship. With that, donation bins, nothing new. Food cycler update, we're still working those details out. We're taking a look at our waste management bylaw, as we've noted before, and we have had some conversation with MLES. They provided some feedback, so we're sending it off to Golder as well to make some changes, some suggestions, which we will review and then bring to council at a later date. We're also working on a public education document, so that once the bylaw is adopted, we can explain it to the public. Public engagement, we're working on a draft survey to later on issue to the public to get some responses back on our services. Stage 4 and stage 5, our Golder has completed the monitoring and operation report for us. Happy to report that we have approximately 23 years remaining in stage 4. We think that gives us about a 13-year window to continue to operate, with the last 10 years of that, the next 10 years being expansion and getting ready to move to stage 5. However, we should note that we're working on a plan to identify the necessary steps and the finances. We're also working on a plan to continually remove items from the waste stream so it's not landfilled. And we're constantly encouraging increased recycling. Mterra has agreed gracefully to enter into an agreement with the food bank to pick up cardboard. That we have a bunch of dogs loose in my house. If the MLES wants to come, I'll give them up freely. So we had some comments from the food bank. They had a lot of cardboard, and so it was Mterra worked really hard with us to accommodate that. So with that, we're also going to hand out some information if somebody asks us for direct cardboard collection. We have some other businesses that produce cardboard, and we're looking to get rid of it, and so we would extend them that information as well. Nothing really on financial summary. We have some related costs and lost revenue that we're going to investigate. With that, Your Worship, that's all I can report, and we'll be meeting again on May the 3rd, I believe, at 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
Okay. Any questions or comments on the report? Hearing none. All in favor? Carried. Is there any new or unfinished business? Councillor Hines. You're on mute, Councillor Hines.
Sorry about that. Oh, almost got through a whole meeting without doing that.
You got to do that at least once a day.
Yeah, I guess. Thank you, Your Worship. Just wanted to mention that marked annually in Canada on April 28th all the time is the National Day of Mourning. And it's dedicated to remembering those who have lost their lives or suffered injury or illness on the job, and or due to work-related tragedy. So I would look to the people of Renfrew to tomorrow at 11 o'clock to pause, reflect, and remember those who have lost their lives, those people who have gone to work in the morning and unfortunately did not come home at night. And there is a virtual Ontario Federation of Labor ceremony on, if you just tap into their website tomorrow. And also, you will know that the Ontario Federation of Labor were in concert with the town, the ones responsible for erecting the cairn in O'Brien Park. So if people could just remember that, that couple minutes of silence for those people who have lost their lives in the line of duty.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Councillor Jones.
Yeah, I just have a quick question. You sped through the finance meeting minutes pretty quick tonight, so I didn't get a chance to get a comment in there. But I'm just wondering, when is all of council going to get an update on what's going on with the RIC and One Innovation Drive?
Treasurer Riley, do you want to comment on that?
Yeah, thank you, Mary. At the last Finance Committee meeting, there was a brief discussion about this in a closed session. And the discussion at that time was that following the next Finance meeting, there would be an update to all of council at a closed session. Probably this will be in May before we get around to that.
Okay. Anything else? Okay. If there's nothing else, then we'll move on. And the bylaw 28-2021 being the bylaw to confirm the proceedings, the Council of Corporation Town of Renfrew meeting held April 27, 2021, be read the first time and deemed to be read a second time. Mover, please. Councillor Jamison, second by Revimo. All in favor? Carried. The bylaw 28-2021 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings, Council of Corporation Town of Renfrew meeting held April 27, 2021, be read the third time and be passed. Mover, please. Councillor Kula, second by Councillor Sidney. All in favor? Carried. We do now adjourn. It is 8:09. Thank you very much. Have a good evening and good night, everyone.
Right.